So a new series I'm starting on this channel is at the end of every month, I'm going to round up all the movies I saw and do like really quick reviews, give recommendations or not, and this is a way to help just kind of keep the flow going. I'm doing this mostly as like an exercise for, like, you know, video making in general, and it also gives me like more of a reason to keep going to the movie theaters as often as I can. So let's get started with January 2020. Underwater is about a group of aquatic researchers who must escape to safety after their subterranean lab is hit by an earthquake and begins to break apart, located at the bottom of the ocean. However, it seems that an earthquake isn't the real threat down there. So when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I was just kind of thinking, okay, PG-13 horror movie in January. As well as the title alone, probably the most underwhelming title, I mean, in a long time, until later in this video. I did have the mindset that I probably wasn't gonna like this movie, and I guess in some way I'm pleased to report I didn't think it's actually that awful. It's not great by any means, honestly. It's fine. I think it's okay. The pacing itself doesn't really feel rushed. They do know how to manage their time. They know how much story they have, and I think they did just enough of what they could do with it without either overstaying their welcome or extremely underdeveloped. I will say I have dubbed this, the movie, because there's like multiple revelations in this movie. There's character revelations, and then there's like, you find out about the creatures, and then they try to like even up it even more with how crazy it gets. And you're never that shocked or that amazed. It's stuff that you can kind of see coming, or might as well have happened. Like, yeah, okay, like I've seen that before. It's cool. Or like, oh, look at that. Called that 40 minutes ago. But it does kind of stay away from the fake out jump scares and stuff. It doesn't do the obnoxiously loud noises. If it does, I think it happens like one time, and it's kind of close to the beginning. So that didn't bother me too much. So I give it a fair pass. I think it's a decent movie. For someone who went in thinking it was going to be awful, and it ended up being okay, I see that as a win. So if this is a movie that you already were interested in, or these are movies themselves, like this is like a genre you like, I would say go ahead and go for it. If not, if this isn't your kind of movie, it's not going to win you over. It's pretty middle of the road, honestly. Underwater, I give a modest recommendation if you are already interested. I have to say this right now. This movie is very, very bad. Do not watch this movie. I don't like to look up reviews or like read articles like talking about a movie until I've seen it. Usually just because that kind of helps me go in like with a more open mind, and if they try to like shock me in some way, like by not knowing to look for something, you know, you get the shock there or the impact that we're going for, and I want to give the movie that opportunity. Yeah, with this movie, I saw an article before I saw the movie. I didn't read it, I just saw the title, and that made me extremely, extremely curious when it said, "Is Dolittle worse than Cats?" I will say no. I can't say it's better, but it's not worse. The story feels like either A, the treatment for the movie was written, and then they just said, okay, let's go with that. We have all the plot points we know we're going to get to. That's all we need. We can figure it out as we go. Or B, this is like the first draft. Because, I mean, you have a mixture of just bad comedy and just weird story decisions and character decisions. And for like a few examples, I understand wanting to get comedians for your comedy characters, which is every animal in this movie, like all of them. They're all the quippy guy. So this movie takes place in like England in like the 1800s, maybe the mid 1800s, probably roughly around that time. And there's a squirrel who lives in the forest in England in the 1800s, and he sounds like Craig Robinson. Why? Because Craig Robinson's funny? And you have so many, like, character things introduced, or, like there's, like, some establishment of, like, relationships, or just other story beats. They're, like, introduced in one scene, and then they're never really addressed or really focused on until it gets resolved the next time it's brought up. It doesn't really feel, and the payoffs are never, like, you know, great or worth it. And I know, because I don't want you seeing this movie, I will say there is a clip in the trailer where, like, Robert Downey Jr. is making, like, a weird-ass face. That is because the climax of the movie revolves around him pulling multiple things, including a set of bagpipes out of a dragon's asshole. Yes, that is the end of the movie. That's the whole thing. They go on this hour and, like, 20-minute adventure across the seas, caves, and everything. Not as interesting as it sounds. And that's what it builds up to. I understand this is a comedy movie for children, but I mean, you gotta do better than that, you know? And I'm sure kids will like it. I'm sure kids will like it. They'll find it funny enough to entertain them for, like, the amount of time there is. Even though the movie itself is pretty boring for the most part. Like, it's not that funny. The story isn't that involving. With all that said, please don't ever watch this movie. It is not worth your time. And if you want your Dolittle fix, just watch the Eddie Murphy movie again. Just do that. The Last Full Measure is about William H. Pitsenbarger, a pararescueman who was awarded the Medal of Honor nearly 34 years after his death in the Vietnam War. So this movie is based on, like, actual true events from 1999. And I think overall it's good. I liked it. I think the trailer won me more than the movie itself did. The Vietnam vet actors, they do fantastic. And of course they do. If you've seen the cast list, obviously these guys are going to do pretty good. They've been doing good for a while. On top of that, when they are doing the flashbacks with the war and the battle of the day that the story revolves around, that all is done pretty well, especially how the story is told and how you're going from one guy to another guy, and the story's like little tiny information dumps are happening, and it's unfolding more and more about what went wrong and why this event was such a big deal to the military and the government, why they have to go so far to get this guy a Medal of Honor. The rest of the performances are good to okay and child. Mixing both positive and kind of, I don't want to say negative, but things I don't think affected me how the movie wanted it to. There are some genuinely good moments, like when two people are just, like, really having a heart-to-heart. It usually has to deal with, like, the vet characters. But they do really good of, like, just selling what the war has done to them and how important this guy getting the Medal of Honor after his sacrifice means to them. And those moments work really, really well. But there are other times in the movie where it really does feel like they're really trying to get that, like, USA chant kind of, like, patriotism going, and it feels a little hokey sometimes, a little too Hollywood. The biggest negative, however, for this film, overall good, there's not a lot of drama going on, and I know this is based on true events, so maybe when this guy was working on getting this job done, maybe there wasn't a lot of things stopping him or getting in his way. Sure. The problem is you're making a movie, because the movie tries to, like, sell you on the fact that, like, oh, this is, like, really kept secret from the government. Like, this has to, like, they're trying to keep this, like, from getting out and everything. But literally every time he goes, like, further with the story to get, like, a senator to approve it and start talking about it, his boss is telling him he can't go forward with this story because it will ruin his career and everything. And then he does, and then nothing. No one has any opposition except the one person who said he shouldn't do it. But they're shut down immediately. And with that, it really does have the feel of like, okay, so I don't really have to worry about anything in the story. You're just kind of watching it unfold. And I know there's like a lot of movies like that, but there is some like tension and, oh, what are they going to have to do to get out of this? But in this one, it really is like, oh my god, like everything worked out completely fine. Like everything worked out completely fine. That's my big negative takeaway from it. But besides that, it's overall a solid movie. So yes, I'd recommend this one. The Turning is about a live-in nanny who is brought in to watch these kids after their parents have died and their last nanny ran off. Similar to what I said about Dolittle, do not see this movie, but I will tell you right now, this movie right here, The Turning, is the worst movie I saw this entire month. The acting is, I mean, somehow they got Finn Wolfhard in this movie, and he is pretty eh. Similar to my worries of Underwater. PG-13. January. A horror movie. The first 15-20 minutes are like okay, because like you're just kind of setting up the movie, and you're just trying to get a feel for everything. Overall, it's like okay, like there's nothing awful in the introduction. The movie really starts getting dumb and bad once the scary shit pops up, mainly the kids. One thing I definitely want to point out is this movie straight up cheats. I don't know how much of a spoiler this is going to be considered, so I'll just put a little tag right here, and you can just kind of brush through the video until you see it not there anymore. The movie tries to like trick you into thinking that the ghosts aren't real, like it's all in her head. It cheats because the beginning of the movie, there's a point where there's like a shot of a mirror, and you very much see a ghost's face in the mirror. That's established like 35 minutes into the movie, like pretty early. So with that and all the other weird occurrences in the movie, you can kind of be like, okay, the house is haunted, and at least one of the kids is in on it. But then there's like the ending of the movie that tries to flip the whole thing on its head and tries to make you question, but is the house really haunted? I mean, you showed me a ghost's face. Yes, it's haunted. The middle of the movie drags because they realize, okay, we have to kind of just let the movie keep going until we hit the 90-minute mark. So for like a good 40 to 50 minutes of the middle part, until the climax can happen, it's just the kids fucking around and her seeing scary shit. But then it's like, just kidding, or was it? And then that's the movie. But like that happens over and over and over again. And you get bored with it. The last 20 minutes of this movie, it takes what would have been a generic bad horror movie to straight up just shitty. Like, it's just shitty. It also just stops. I will not say this movie ends. It stops. Because there's the big reveal at the end that makes you have to question what all has actually happened. She screams, it cuts to black, and then the credits roll. And that, to them, is used as some satisfying ending to this fucking movie. And no, it's not. I had to look up the plot synopsis, like on Wikipedia, just to make sure there wasn't like a post-credits thing. And there's not. So I will say, this is a really, really bad movie, but still don't see it. Don't think this is like, oh, this movie's so bad, I have to watch it, because it's not. It's not so bad it's good, it's just bad. It's not laughably bad. It's not entertainingly bad. It's just dumb, boring, and bad. Fuck this movie. Do not see it. Gretel and Hansel. I could say it's maybe better than The Turning. I think. Well, no, it's definitely better than The Turning. I'm very mixed on this movie, because two of the biggest elements going into a film, the visuals, I will say. The visuals are great. It stands out a lot compared to your generic run-of-the-mill PG-13 horror movies, like The Turning. The Turning just looks like every other horror movie that comes out. Oh, just make it blue and gray. This one's like, no, we'll like use a bunch of different colors and like use shapes as a way to like kind of tell the story and like make connections, and but sometimes the subtlety isn't that subtle. This is very much a movie that's like, oh, I saw The Witch, I'll just make that. It has the pretentious feeling of like movies trying to, it wants to be smart, and sometimes it does make very interesting and smart decisions, and other times it's very like, okay, I get it. Like, you're not every other horror movie. The problem with the movie, which is a huge part, is its story. It is very, very lacking. It is a very simple plot, mostly. They have, like, the simple beats of the movie, and they, like, want to put a twist on the story of Gretel and Hansel, which is fine. And they try to incorporate, like, way more magic and, like, dark arts kind of stuff into the story. And they try to have, like, it's like a movie that wants to have that slow burn feel. The problem is when you want to have that slow burn feel, but still have the scares, because you're only 87 minutes long, your scares have to be scary. And a big downfall for a horror movie is that I was never scared. The turning had me more tense than this movie ever did. And that's why I don't want to give the movie too much credit. But I will say the music and the visuals are, like, almost worth the price of admission on its own, because they clearly tried with those. That was what they were focusing on. I think the problem is the story is very empty, because they want to, like, hint and, like, build all this up, and it's very, very slow. But then, like, the last part of the movie, like, they try to, like, give you all these different payoffs to all these scenarios and, like, all the different things they're trying to put together, and it doesn't feel fulfilling because they've tried to, like, methodically space it out, and then it's all rushed right at the end. So it doesn't give you the satisfaction that I think the movie was going for. And I think if this movie was, like, maybe a little longer, or, like, just more story details were put in, we could have gotten a really, really weirdly decent sleeper of a horror film. With that, I can't personally recommend it unless you really want to see it and the visuals just really captivate you, and maybe story isn't the biggest thing you go to a movie for. It's not gonna win any points for, like, writing. Like, mainly the big problem is it just feels like the biggest waste of potential. There's even, like, a lot of narration in this movie, and looking back, I don't know why, because the stuff they describe in the movie you could have just showed because of how lacking your narrative is. So you just replaced it with narration, which didn't help the movie at all. In fact, it makes you think, well, that would have been interesting to see. Or, like, I wish we could go into a little more depth with your character. And with that, I don't know, it feels like a bigger waste of potential, and I want to like it. Because even going in, I wasn't going in with a lot of high hopes. But walking out, I was more upset over the fact that, like, wow, I could have really liked that movie if maybe they tried, like, a little harder when it came to writing. And that's the biggest takeaway I make from it. And there is my January of 2020 movie review list. Overall, obviously, like, not the best round of movies. Like, even the best movie of the month was, like, okay, I liked it enough. Yes, I know I missed The Gentleman, but I'm actually going to see that tomorrow, but I wanted to get this movie out as soon as possible. So The Gentleman will just be in, like, the February 2020 monthly video. And then on top of that, if I miss a movie for the month and I just don't see it, I'll just put it in the month I see it in. So I know I'm not going to be able to see every movie of the month when it comes out. I don't have a lot listed for March, so March might actually be, like, the first, like, catch-up month that I have. So looking forward to doing more of this. I am going to really, really try to stay on this just so there's consistent content on here and it helps me stay busy. And I'll be here at some point. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe I will. But I will try my dangest. So, bye.